Exploring Stories, SCP-1471. I'm sure at one point or another we have all downloaded an app and quickly deleted it after we discovered it wasn't useful or it wasn't what it advertised. The limit of your exertion with these apps often is just uninstalling it and unlinking any accounts that you've connected to it. However, what would you do if you uninstalled an app or you install an app and could no longer find it on your phone? And then you started receiving images of your location in real time, including a very creepy and ominous face, being, person in that photo with you. SCP-1471 falls into this realm and more. Let's take a look. SCP-1471's object class is Euclid. It has an advertisement posted on the application store that says, free, 0 reviews, and its description, never settle for these awkward feelings of being alone ever again. MAL0 is an exciting and interactive experience that will keep you engaged and intrigued. The anxiety of social situations can be nerve-wracking, but after just a few hours of MAL0, you will soon be able to forget all about those painful emotions of disappointment. Be a part of the next new crave that is quickly becoming the next social substitute. Remember, the more you participate, the more MAL0 will engage you. Your experience is completely tailored to how you interact. Absolutely no ads. Enjoy! Description: SCP-1471 is a free 98 megabyte application for mobile devices. It's named MAL0 version 1. It's in application stores such as Apple and Google Android stores. It has no listed developers and is yet somehow able to bypass the application approval process and go directly to distribution. It has so far been able to avoid removal by all other program manager applications as well, such as administration programs that are specifically made for removing this SCP. After it's installed, no icons or shortcuts are created for this application. SCP-1471 will then begin to send the individual images through text messaging every 3 to 6 hours. All of these images will contain SCP-1471-A, either within the background or the foreground. SCP-1471 appears as a large humanoid figure, with a canine-like skull and black hair. It's unsettling and quite creepy to look at. During the first 24 hours following the installation of SCP-1471, the mobile device used to install this application will receive images taken at locations commonly frequented by the individual. This would be, for example, their office or school. After 48 hours, the mobile device will receive images taken at the location that were recently visited by them, like a local coffee shop if that's somewhere they were. After 72 hours, the mobile device will receive images of the individual in real time. All individuals within 90 hours of exposures to these continuous images will begin to briefly visualize SCP-1471 within their peripheral vision. Reflective surfaces such as mirrors or shiny objects will also have the appearance of SCP-1471. Continued exposure to SCP-1471 after this point of 90 hours will cause irreversible and sustained visualizations of this entity. Individuals who reach this stage have reported periodic attempts made by this entity to visually communicate with them, but they fail to understand or even comprehend any of its actions. Currently, the only known treatment to reverse the effects is to eliminate the individual's exposure to the images prior to hitting the 90 hours. To date, no apparent hostile activity has been reported or documented regarding this SCP. Next, we're going to step into the special containment procedures. All mobile devices that have SCP-1471 installed are to be confiscated and analyzed for any potential leads to other possibly affected devices. Afterwards, those confirmed affected devices are to have their batteries removed and to be assigned with a designation such as SCP-1471 number sign. Afterwards, it is then to be placed into Storage Unit 91 at Research Site 45. All online application stores for mobile devices are to be monitored 24/7 to prevent any inadvertent sales of this SCP. Suspected devices are to be targeted using self-uploading malware in order to disable the device until it can then be seized by field agents. Next, we move on to the memos attached to this article about a young William and an entity called Capone. I was scared when I first saw him. It happened just as you told me. The messages, the pictures, seeing him around after every corner I passed. I was so young. Who wouldn't have lost it? William sighed. By then, he was over the creature following him. It wasn't like it was going to go away, no matter how much he begged or pleaded, or even attempted to bribe. He knew that the best and only solution would be to just get used to Capone being there. At least he had the solace of knowing he wasn't going insane. Believe me, William, I know many people who have reacted the same way. Fear is a more common reaction to the unknown than you'd think. Dr. Laura consoled him. These cases weren't exactly common, but they were commonly known to the Foundation. It's not even that I'm afraid of him anymore. I mean, he just makes me jump when I see him in the morning, and I don't think I'll ever get used to that. It's just the bad connotations he has. I know that he does, but it happened 2 years ago, William. I know it's hard for you, especially with your shadow, but you need to carry on. Our session is almost up. We made some real progress today, William. I want you to do something for me when you get home. Do you have any homework or anything to keep you busy? No, I did all that on my break. Good. So when you get home, I want you to think back to your first experience and write as much as you feel comfortable sharing. Is that all right? Yeah, said William. Thanks for seeing me. It wasn't too long a drive from the doctor's office to home. 5, possibly 10 minutes if there was a train. He always saw the creature through the rearview mirror when he drove, riding in the back seat, taking up the whole back. It looked innocent in its own alien way, even waving to William as he saw it. Despite everything, William found himself talking to it, like one would talk to a dog or a cat about their day when they're alone. It seemed to listen when he talked, and after a while he could swear that it even understood him. It's hard to tell with a face like that, so all there were to go by were the various head tilts and waves, and even then he had to teach it how to wave. At least I know you're interested. I get home, I drop my backpack near the door, I go to the patio, I wave to Capone from the mirror, I go to the fridge, I drink, and then I crash in the chair. William's afternoon routine was more like clockwork than it should be. He thought back to his session with Dr. Breen's. She wanted me to try and recapture the experience when I first saw him, huh? William mumbled as he grabbed a few sheets of paper and a pen. Bit by bit, he pieced together the sequence of events that led up to that point. I've had Capone with me ever since I was 15 years old. I remember that my 20-year-old sister Sarah brought up an app that she had downloaded earlier in the day at the dinner table. She had no idea how to use it or how it does it, but she hazarded a guess that it tracks you through your phone's GPS and sends you a picture of the places you've been with a really cute monster placed in the photo to make it look like it's following you. It didn't seem that weird at first. I recall that Google Maps could get a decent ground photo at the time, so just add Photoshop to that and you'd have a pretty good gimmick. Plus, we knew it couldn't be a virus. I had heard the App Store checks every app for things like that before it even starts peddling it. The only thing I found legitimately off about it at the time was that it was both free and adless. Her explanation of it sounded pretty cool to me, so I asked Sarah to help me download it on my phone. She told me that while my old hand-me-down flip phone did have something like an app store, it mostly didn't have the MAL0. Didn't stop her from looking through my phone, though. Sarah was always a good sister to me. She really could have told me to just get out of her hair, but she always took the time out of her day to help me with anything. Pack my lunch, play with me, bring me to that R-rated movie that I was clearly too young for. I was lucky to have her as my legal guardian when our parents passed away. I was too young to process it all when it happened. But Mom and Dad died from a head-on collision with a drunk driver, and Sarah took care of me as my legal guardian up until I moved out for college. God knows where I'd be if she didn't. After some prodding, she found the app, which was a surprise to the both of us. It was obvious that my phone didn't have any kind of GPS, but neither of us had even thought about that up until much, much later. Soon enough, I received my first picture. I'll never understand the way Sarah saw the world. It was her idea of cute. That. The photo was taken in my schoolyard's courtyard, with the creature I'd soon call Capone sitting on one of the benches. You could barely see him, but there he was, covered in his black, matted fur, with his knife-like claws and a set of blank, pure white eyes. And that face, which was merely a skull belonging to some kind of large beast, but looking directly at us with that large wolfish grin. I gave the phone back to Sarah, telling her how terrifying it was and that I don't want the messages anymore. She just jokingly punched my shoulder, saying, "Oh, don't be such a baby. It is too cute. Look how happy it is to meet you." I looked back at his face, his wide grin specifically, and I have to admit I laughed at that. It was just the sheer wrongness of that statement that made me listen to the next. "I'm sure he'll grow on you eventually. Tell you what, if you can put up with him for one whole week, we'll go see that movie you've wanted to see. If he still gives you nightmares, we'll delete it. If you end up liking it, we'll laugh about it later. Deal?" I looked at the picture again. It appeared that getting a photo every now and then was really the extent that this was going to go, and looking at it in hindsight, I probably would have kept it on for next to nothing if she really wanted me to, so I agreed. Sarah was ecstatic after that and assured me that I wouldn't regret it while showing me some of her own pictures. She had 3 so far, one at her office, one at a park, and another on the road we lived, each picture containing her own clearly visible entity. I must have looked so nervous or something because she suggested that I name mine like she did with her Cassandra. I thought about it for a bit. I decided to name him Capone. I named him after a history lesson I found amusing in school where people's fears got the best of them, and as my teacher put it, it ended up doing more harm than good. It was intended as a reminder that I shouldn't be making the same mistakes. I saw a bit of light in this whole thing after giving it a mock title and thought it wasn't going to go so bad. I went to bed, and my normal life just went on for a little while longer. I continued to get pictures of Capone for a while, following me at school, then bus stop, then my street, virtually everywhere I went. It wasn't until the 3rd or 4th day when I got called in from my class. I was thinking that I was in trouble or something, even though I didn't know what I did, but as soon as I saw Sarah, that feeling was definitely stifled. She looked so shaken. The instant she saw me, she immediately yanked my arm and brought me to the car. Sarah was not looking good at all. She kept asking questions about Capone, things like, did I see him, or if I ever received any photos from him with me in the images, and I haven't checked anything from today, but when I checked, I know there were 2. I remembered exactly when and where those text messages were taken, because during them I made a mental note that I got some texts from Capone. They'd been sent as soon as they'd been taken. Sarah knew that we were being pursued by something. She probably had no idea by what they were, and knew she had no idea how they were doing it, but she knew that they knew where we lived. She couldn't figure out how to delete it, so she said she tried everything, but couldn't find a way to get it off. She couldn't even find where the app went. I'm not even sure what we were planning to do, but before we could even fully plan a course of action, I I got another text, and Sarah froze and stared at me as if to say, "Don't look at it." If I didn't, I could have had a semi-normal life right now. It would have been over the news within the next week, and we would have known to not have that app. But I did it, and I opened the phone. And there we were, just sitting there with that fear-stricken look on our face. The photo was clearly taken from the hood of the moving car, giving us a clear view of what was behind us. He took up most of the back seat and towered over me. We both turned around, preparing to scream at the monstrosity behind us, but when we did, the seat was empty. We didn't know what was happening or what to make of it, but we felt that the only thing to do is run away and abandon the car. We hastily ditched the car, ran the rest of the way to the apartment, and locked the door behind us. We locked ourselves in the bathroom and waited. We just stayed there, and even when we got a message from Cassandra or Capone, Sarah would scream at them, asking why they were following us, and begged for us to be left alone. We felt so helpless. All we felt we could do is just sit in the bathroom and hope they would go away. The room felt like our only safe haven until we were exposed to them for too long. Sarah started to panic, saying that she kept seeing one of them behind her. I wasn't seeing it though, and I was more concerned about trying to calm her down by telling her that maybe they weren't really there, and I was just coping. Because I was just about to see Capone for the first time in the mirror. I convinced Sarah that we needed to leave the room out of necessity and we couldn't stay in the apartment forever. And honestly, if they wanted to get us, they would have already done so. We called the police and here we are. We both got help, but I was the lucky one. Everyone's case was different in terms of their interaction, but for me, Capone was already in the mirror. I've always seen him in a mirror or some reflective thing large enough to show him. He was predictable, and I could find ways to block him out when I needed. And I learned how to expect Capone. After a while, he kind of grew on me. I used to have a makeshift curtain that I would pull over the mirrors when I didn't want to see him, but when I started using that curtain less and less, I realized it wasn't so bad. Capone always seemed to try and interact with me, and even if I didn't understand what he was trying to say most of the time, I started to greet him, and Capone was a casual waver. Every time I passed by him from the living room mirror, he would just start to wave back. He kind of became a constant companion to me, and I adjusted to Capone as he adjusted to me. My sister Sarah's case was much more severe. She saw Cassandra everywhere she looked, around every corner, just out of sight, over her while she slept, and she went crazy. Sarah took her own life 2 years ago. I wanted to blame the MAL0s for it, but I can't. Following the person who looks at their message is just what they do. Every time I see Capone, I'm reminded of what I did in the car that day. I knew I shouldn't have picked up that text. If I didn't, she'd still be here. But then again, how would I have known? I don't know who made the MAL0s or why. I don't even know if anyone actually made the app. Many things like it have been created naturally or have been given some kind of anomaly out of sheer chance. It would make so much sense if some physical thing was to blame, but there's none that I can legitimately think of. None of the MAL0s, none on me. It's just chance. End of log. And since we're at the end of this article, we're going to finish this with a quick summary of what this SCP is. SCP-1471 is a mobile application that can bypass any form of regulation and automatically place itself on an app store. If 90 hours has been exceeded of visualizing the entity, it will then proceed to permanently become part of the viewer's vision. You'll be able to see it in the background of certain photos, in the corner of your eye, and At first, looking at the entity, you would think that it's evil. However, based off the articles and the facts that there's no hostile interactions with it, it kind of just makes me think that he's the homie who's kind of ugly. We all know somebody like that, but he really do be chill. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you still are, please consider subscribing. We have hit 250 subscribers on the channel, and I'm always looking for feedback in knowing where you guys want me to steer the channel and what kind of audio stories you'd like to hear. If this is the right direction for you or you just enjoy these types of videos, please let me know down below.